Employees Compensation Act, interest on compensation payable from date of death and not date of order, according to Supreme Court. For further information, we shall go to inside the video. I kindly request all the viewers to watch this small video in full. Now we shall move to inside the video. The Supreme Court on Friday held that the liability under the Employees Compensation Act of 1923 to pay the compensation and the interest on the same would arise from the data on which the deceased died and not from the date of the order of compensation by Commissioner Shobha versus the Chairman Vitthalrao Shinde Sahakari Sakhar Karkhana Ltd. The bench of Justices M.R. Shah and B.V. Nagarathna held that as per Section 4A, subsection 1 of the Act, compensation under Section 4 has to be paid as soon as it falls due. Therefore, on the date of the employee deceased immediately, the amount of compensation can be said to be falling due. Therefore, the liability to pay the compensation would arise immediately on the death of the deceased, the court held. Since the interest liability as per Section 4A, subsection 3A of the Act is on the amount of compensation due, interest would also be payable from the date of accident and not date of order. Therefore, the liability to pay the compensation would arise from the date on which the deceased died, for which he is entitled to the compensation, and therefore the liability to pay the interest on the amount of arrears compensation shall be from the date of accident and not from the date of the order passed by the Commissioner. The order emphasized the deceased, a sugarcane cutting laborer, was engaged by a labor contractor. One day while cutting sugarcane, he died of a snake bite. The deceased heir, appellant, was not paid compensation and she approached the Commissioner Workmen's Compensation bid and claimed rupees 5 lakh. Her claim was allowed and the Commissioner directed the respondents jointly and severely to pay compensation along with simple interest at 12% per annum from the date of the accident. Further, the Commissioner imposed a penalty of 50% on compensation amount as per Section 4A subsection 3B of the Act. Dissatisfied with the order of the Commissioner, the respondents approached the Bombay High Court. The High Court dismissed the appeal but set aside the penalty and modified the interest awarded to be made payable from a month after expiry of the Commissioner's order instead of date of accident. Aggrieved by the order, heir of the deceased approached the Supreme Court. The Apex Court held that as per Section 4A, subsection 1 of the Act, and the liability to pay compensation would arise immediately on the date of the deceased. The court also sought to distinguish between interest and penalty payable under the Act. The provision for levy of interest would be under Section 4A subsection 3A and the provision for levy of penalty would be under Section 4A subsection 3B. The court noted. It said that the High Court, while directing the employer to pay the interest from the date of the order passed by the Commissioner, has not at all considered Section 4A subsection 3A and has considered Section 4A subsection 3B only, which is the penalty provision. In view of the above, the Supreme Court set aside the High Court judgment and directed that interest on compensation be paid from the date of the death of the deceased. Advocates Shivaji M. Jadhav and Koratilin appeared for the appellant. Advocates Samrat Kishore Shinde and Sarang Aradhya represented the respondents.